All right, what is up? My name is Baxter. Thank you for joining me for this podcast. Just want to give a quick intro. I love talking Carolina football. I love going to games. This is my favorite time of the year, and I just wanted to create something that's purely therapeutic. I really don't have a plan for this, to be honest. It's going to be off the cuff. And this is the fans pod. This is for the fans. This is by a fan. And I just want to start out by saying I really love and respect the media outlets that we have that cover Carolina athletics, namely Inside Carolina, Tar Heel Illustrated, are kind of the big two. Love listening to Greg and Tommy and Buck at Inside Carolina. The message board communities are great. Andrew and Jacob love their content as well. So if you're a Carolina fan, you're not following those outlets, you're definitely missing out. So this is just an off-the-cuff type of podcast I wanted to produce every week. I'll try to keep these pretty short. I may be here, I may be traveling, so the production value of these podcasts may not be super great, but I'll do my best. Wanted to talk the season, the 2024 UNC season, a few bullet points, and some of the new staff we have, and then I'll dive into the schedule, and then final thoughts on Mack Brown. I think this is a big year for Mack. I'm going to talk about that. But first, a little bit about me. Like I said, Carolina grad, grew up going to games. I met my wife in Charlotte in 2019, Sam Howell's first game. So honestly, Mack Brown is one of the best things to ever happen to Carolina as far as I'm concerned. My life would look a lot different had they not hired Mack Brown. I was excited, went down to Charlotte, met my wife, and the rest is history. So there you go. I'll try to add a little bit more on that maybe later, but let's start with the schedule, some of the new additions. Jeff Collins, defensive coordinator. Initially, I wasn't super thrilled about this, considering his tenure at Georgia Tech. I understand they did have a pretty tough schedule when they let him go there. Love his attitude. He's won me over in the press conference. And if there's one thing I can say about Mack Brown can win over myself in the preseason. He's the king of the preseason press conference. Super polished. He has me really bullish on this Carolina team. So we'll see how that goes. Going to talk about that a little bit later. But Collins, I feel good about. Clyde Christensen in the quarterback room, I think, is a great addition now that he can be more than just an analyst. With Max Johnson and I think Connor Harrell, it's sort of being a two-man race at this point. We'll see if Criswell plays at all. I think it's a tough situation with him leaving and then coming back. We'll see. I think right now it looks like Johnson is going to be named the starter. I think they're holding out. I'm not sure about Chip Lindsey at this point. Not really sure what the verdict is on Lindsey, considering in my opinion, he was really brought in for Drake May. So we'll see how he performs as OC without Drake May. He's a completely different personality than a Jeff Collins. He's a little more reserved from what I can see. Considering he had Hampton in the backfield last season, he had Drake May, he had Tez Walker, and this team only really won 8 games. It's really a little disappointing. If you ask me, I'm not really sure how much additional development May received last season. I don't know. I really hope we turn a corner this season and win the games on the schedule. That's what I want to talk about next, is the schedule. I think for a Carolina football fan, you have to look at this and feel really good about how it sets up, because you don't have a quarterback that most people know anything about. I don't think, unless you're a Texas A&M fan, you really know about Max Johnson. I certainly don't. And we'll see how he fits in with this offense. I think that's going to be the key to winning some of these close games, is figuring out the quarterback situation. But if you look at it, on the road at Minnesota, Charlotte, NC Central, James Madison, those first, 4 games, I think Minnesota's going to be a toss-up. I mean, there's no reason if you win that Minnesota game, we're not sitting here talking about a 4-0 team. I think that does a lot for confidence. 3 out of the first 4 here are at home in Kenan Stadium. So you break in your quarterback, you build a little bit of momentum despite a weaker schedule, and then you head to Duke September 28th. They don't have Mike Elko anymore. Manny Diaz is sort of a question mark, definitely a question mark if you ask me. And I don't know how good they'll be. So if Carolina figures out the quarterback situation, you have a proven stud in Omarion Hampton carrying the ball for you to bail you out of some of these early games where you're figuring out who's going to play at quarterback. It may not be Max Johnson. It could be Connor Harrell has the hotter hand. We've seen things like that happen before. It's pretty unpredictable. But then you really head into the heart of conference play, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, Virginia. I mean, before you play on the road at Florida State, I mean, how many games is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Carolina could be undefeated easily if they figure it out. Now, that said, you could be 7-0. You could also lose 3 conference games and the wheels sort of fall off by the time you hit the back half of the schedule. The back part of the schedule. So this is going to be a big year, I think, for Mack Brown. The schedule sets up pretty well to have a quarterback transitional type of year. And anything less than 8 wins is going to be inexcusable. Going 6-6 with this schedule, I mean, look at the Florida Gators and what they have to deal with. I mean, that is the most brutal schedule I've ever seen. So I'm optimistic. I'm hoping this could be a 10-win season. I think realistically, probably 8 wins again, to be honest. 8 to 9 wins. If you look at Mack Brown as I close in the future of the program, I think this season, it very well may depend on a couple of games. One, this Florida State game. I know Florida State is ranked number 10 preseason, it looks like. They obviously lose Jordan Travis. And how UNC handles business in Tallahassee, I don't think anybody is expecting a win. But if you get blown out in Tallahassee and you're sitting here, what is this, maybe like 5 wins, you need a couple more. Maybe you've got 6 wins, you've got 3 games remaining on the schedule, 2 very winnable games, Wake Forest, Boston College. It's going to really hinge on this NC State game. At home in Kenan Stadium, Mack Brown has been awful against the Wolfpack, and it is really going to leave a bad taste in a lot of Carolina fans' mouth if you could not win this game. Considering this schedule, everybody expects about 8 wins, but that last game, November 30th, I'm just saying, it's a big one. I could see the fan base really turning on Mack Brown after this. I mean, it could happen earlier, but you got to beat your rivals at home to start to keep selling progress to the fan base, especially the donors that are being asked to contribute more and more and more and more money to NIL. We all know the television contracts and the huge discrepancy between the ACC and the Big Ten and the SEC. So you got to beat your rivals. You got to pull out 9 wins, I think. I think Carolina would have to win probably 9 games and then lose to NC State by a touchdown or two maybe for Mack Brown to feel okay about his chances after the 24 season. But this is also a season where if you lose to NC State and the wheels kind of fall off, I think the administration might be faced with a pretty tough decision. I'm being optimistic. I'm hoping for 10 wins. Realistically, with the bowl game, I could see 9. It's kind of where I'm landing with this schedule. We'll see what happens. I want to post reaction videos after every game. So thank you for joining me for the first podcast here. Thank you for tuning in or listening. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Today's episode is brought to you by carwashcountry.com. What is up? Baxter here. Here's the deal. As a busy professional, I like to keep my car looking good, but I don't like spending hundreds on detailing services each and every month. Or those tunnel washes designed to keep your car looking okay for maybe 2 hours. After years of learning from professionals, I started Car Wash Country in 2017 to reveal these secrets with the world. Because the truth is, many people never actually learn the right way to care for their car. If that's you, I invite you to check out our video course, Washing and Detailing for Beginners. You'll learn the basics of car care and how to work efficiently so you can spend more time tailgating on Saturday than you do in the driveway. And most importantly, you'll start to see better results from home that everyone will notice. Head on over to carwashcountry.com/course and enter promo code UNC at checkout for 50% off for a limited time just for being a listener. I'll see you inside, and go Heels.